Now, do you smile and say hello when you go for a countryside walk? A new countryside code has been published, encouraging you to do so. NTD's Neil Woodrow has the story.
70 years since the first Countryside Code booklet was published. This latest edition has a few key changes for people, notably be nice, say hello and share the space. The code is split into different headings: respect everyone, protect the environment, enjoy the outdoors and know the signs and symbols of the countryside. It now covers all green spaces, waterways, the coast and even parks in towns and cities. So what do people think of the emphasis on being outwardly friendly?
When you're out, some people want their own space. They've got their headphones on and, they're enjoying their time. But I like to be out, and yes, I do talk to people with their dogs, or if people have got young children, I sometimes have a chat to them, and, it boosts you up and, you really enjoy being out.
Well, we've always greeted people when we pass them, and some people are more friendly than others. So if we have a code and people are friendly, I think it would really encourage people to enjoy going out and make it a really friendly place, so that would be great.
This gentleman agrees.
I totally agree. I'm one of those friendly people that walk around and I smile, and having a friendly face doesn't cost you anything. So yeah, you can.
This update to the code, the first in over a decade, has been guided by nearly 4,000 stakeholder responses to an online survey, which sought views on best practices for visiting the countryside and protecting the natural environment. With the lifting of the lockdown restrictions, a group of 6 can now meet up outdoors, or a group of any number from up to 2 households. So if you're venturing out, follow the country code and smile. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, Epsom, Surrey.
Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab today announces further sanctions targeting the Burmese military regime. Raab says the junta wantonly kills innocent people.
Britain on Thursday announced sanctions targeting MEC, a conglomerate linked to the Burmese military. According to the UK government, MEC has been involved in serious human rights violations following the military coup in February. It has made funds available to the military, and it is closely associated with senior military figures. Burma is also called Myanmar. Raab says the Burmese military has been wantonly killing innocent people, including children. He says the latest actions are intended to impose a further cost on them for their violations of human rights. On the same day, UK fashion retailer Next said it has stopped placing new production orders in Burma.
Now, we hear from experts on how the US administration can address national security threats. Some of those threats stem from Communist China's digital espionage. Here's more from NTD's Kevin Hogan.
There's nothing that a communist likes less than hearing the truth spoken freely.
The Commissioner of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, says the U.S. needs to continue the State Department's successful effort to promote clean networks across the world. He says the U.S. needs to keep engaging with other countries to counter the Chinese regime's efforts to promote Huawei through its Belt and Road Initiative.
In Africa, myself, I've been, a couple hour drive down a bumpy road outside of any major town. You get these small little communities, and there's, Huawei banners all over the place. And so they're playing a very long game with respect to this Belt and Road Initiative in Huawei, ZTE.
Dean Chung is a senior research fellow at the conservative-leaning Heritage Foundation. He says in the Chinese system, there's no civil society and nothing is beyond the CCP's reach. So whether it's a private company or a state-owned enterprise, the CCP still has access to them. And they may even have Communist Party committees that oversee every aspect of operations, he says. This, combined with the Chinese term ABC for artificial intelligence, big data, and cloud computing, allows the CCP to manage a huge amount of data in order to maintain surveillance over its population, Chung says.
And this includes the typical espionage aspect of trying to find out other people's military secrets. Your war plans, your fighter aircraft designs, your transportation plans. But in addition to that is monitoring what the Chinese would consider anti-China elements.
Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
Recreational marijuana use is now legal in the state of New York. But a former NYPD detective says he's concerned about the complications it could bring. NTD's Christina Kim has the details.
New Yorkers can now possess up to 3 ounces of marijuana, though cannabis sales won't become legalized until around 18 months until the state draws up regulations. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Wednesday he signed a bill that legalizes adult use marijuana. He called it a historic day and noted this new bill will automatically cancel out prior marijuana convictions. Proponents of the move say this will end, quote, racially disparate marijuana enforcement. State Senator Liz Krueger, who sponsored the act, says 40% of the tax revenue for cannabis sales will go back into minority communities. But Police Department Commissioner Dermot Shea said he worries what the new law will mean for New Yorkers. He notes this law legalizes smoking marijuana outdoors, and that's not something that most other states did. Former NYPD Detective Rob O'Donnell also asks people to think about how this measure will impact people's everyday lives and warns of potential complications.
Do we really want teachers? Do we really want police officers, firemen, machine operators? Do you want your accountant, going out for marijuana smoke breaks during the time he's doing your accounting in his office?
And while he says he believes there's a case to legalize medical marijuana, recreational marijuana isn't the same thing.
Recreational use is not that. Recreational use is recreational use. It's not medical use. So the health benefits really aren't part of that.
O'Donnell pushed back against the claim that police are unfairly targeting minority communities.
So if you're outside on the street and you're smoking marijuana and it's an illegal substance, you are going to be arrested regardless of your color or your demographic. The police are in other areas more than they are in some in the city, and that's based on crime patterns.
Still, New Yorkers can't smoke or vape marijuana in places like colleges, workplaces, and hospitals. Christina Kim, NTD News.
More stories detail the dangerous trek across South and Central America that so many migrants are taking to get to the US. A baby was even thrown into a river by human smugglers. NTD's Grace Coulter has more on the US-Mexican border.
As the influx at the border continues to surge, we hear more tragic stories about the dangerous journey so many migrants are taking. A 6-month-old baby has been rescued from the Rio Grande River by a special tactical team operating along the border in Texas. The baby was thrown off a raft by human smugglers while illegally crossing into the U.S. The Texas Department of Public Safety said the incident occurred on March 16th. The child's mother was also assaulted and had her leg broken by the smugglers in Mexico. Now over to adult immigrants. An SUV transporting 13 illegal immigrants into the U.S. was stopped by Texas DPS troopers in Montgomery County on Monday evening. The vehicle had paper number plates, and the driver had no ID. The driver and his brother were charged, but the 13 illegal immigrants were released at the request of ICE. New York, Louisiana, and Florida were among the destinations the illegal immigrants were heading to. But the most shocking part of this story is how much money the illegal immigrants were paying to be transported. One woman from Ecuador told DPS it cost her $20,000 with 6% interest. Being an illegal immigrant, it's unlikely she could find a high-paying job in the U.S. right away, so one wonders how she could pay off such debt. Jason Jones, retired captain of the Texas Department of Public Safety, has talked about the debt bondage, as he calls it, that many migrants become bound to. He says that every immigrant has to pay the cartels thousands of dollars to cross the border, becoming indebted to them.
German carmaker Volkswagen sent out a message saying it will change the name of its US operations. But it's not happening. April Fools. NTD's Vilzo has the story.
Volkswagen USA electrifying the whole world into believing it had a new name, Voltswagen. Its CEO said, quote, changing out our K for a T, except it was fake news, an April Fool's Day joke.
Volkswagen taking a drastic step in this direction definitely gets them some notoriety.
Caldwell said VW sales have been slumping in America, so it makes sense if this was a marketing move.
They definitely need to get their mojo back. And if they're going to start a whole new branding campaign and try to think of themselves in that fun, playful, quirky way that they once did, then maybe this is a step in the right direction.
But not everyone agrees. A Duke University law professor said, U.S. regulators should take action because misinformation can distort stock prices. Volkswagen shares rose nearly 5% on Tuesday when the bogus news came out. Back in 2015, VW was caught in the Dieselgate scandal where the carmaker admitted to cheating on emissions tests. VW has plans to sell 1 million electric vehicles by 2025. The company tweeted, "What happened? People talking about electric driving can only be a good thing." Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
400 years ago, the Mayflower carried a group of Elizabethan-age pilgrims to North America. Now, its modern-day descendant, the Mayflower autonomous ship, is ready to cross the Atlantic.
The Mayflower autonomous ship is a 50-foot trimaran with no passenger or crew on board. It was launched and christened last September, 400 years to the day since the original Mayflower left Plymouth.
It's about as ready as it's going to be from a mechanical and electrical and a power and propulsion perspective, and now we just want to continue to implement the autonomy and stress it and test it and throw things at it that it didn't see before.
The robotic Mayflower was built by the non-profit marine research organization ProMare and computing giant IBM. If successful, the £1 million ship could become the largest ever autonomous vessel to cross the Atlantic. IBM software engineer James Sutton is busy fitting the ship's science pod.
Rather than having so many scientists on board trying to do lots of different jobs, if you can compress that down into a small payload like this, it really takes the stress off the scientists.
The Mayflower is powered by a mix of sun and wind energy with a backup diesel generator. A range of technologies help the boat sense the world around it, including cameras and radar to detect hazards. The vessel also has instruments to measure ocean health, including a tongue to taste seawater chemicals and an acoustic payload to listen for whales and dolphins.
We really need a huge amount of data to be able to actually understand what's going on with the world's oceans, and that's so important. And using just traditional methods alone isn't going to allow us to actually really scale up how we do that.
Now, as in 1620, not everything has gone to plan. The Pilgrims set sail for America from Southampton, but had to stop in Plymouth for repairs before finally setting out. And in 2020, the pandemic delayed construction of the autonomous ship and its transatlantic voyage.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees.